Hello guys and welcome to part 2 of our video. So in the previous one we had the brief kind of idea of what it is that we are going to talk about, the whole concept of existence, what's the purpose of it, why God created all these things. In this video I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into this topic. I got my notes here that I'm gonna try to clarify and tell you, but again, all in all, I believe it's on you to find out for yourself. So I will just give you some ideas and then you can choose yourself which one to take. So this is only for educational purpose. This is not, let's say, anything personal or anything that I would guide you to do, just for understanding and learning. So why would God create the universe? This is the first question that we're going to actually consider. The science and the actual theology, what do they actually stand for this? So, science describes how the universe evolved: Big Bang theory, inflation, and formation of atoms, stars, and planets, life emerging via chemistry and biological evolution. So we all have heard about Big Bang theory. It's not a surprise to us. Before us, dinosaurs actually existed, and then the Big Bang theory happened, and all the universe came to a kind of existence. And via chemistry, biological evolution, it does not answer why the universe exists, the purpose. Science is descriptive. It details mechanisms, not final purposes. So it tells us how it's done as a kind of hypothesis, not the purpose and aim behind it, which is fair. Scientific observations somehow feed philosophical kind of arguments, fine tuning. Physical constants appear compatible with life, but whether that implies purpose or design is a philosophical, theological inference, not a scientific proof. That's why you see a lot of scientists or atheists and they don't believe in God, because they would say, okay, I just want to care about this based on evidence, based on science. That's the whole concept in a nutshell. But theology and philosophy say have different kind of views on this. For example, God creates out of freedom and the godness. Creation is a kind of beautiful thing out of gratitude, the act, so creatures can exist and share in goodness, purpose, relationship, stewardship, and the manifestation of divine attributes. Love, wisdom. Yeah, but not really. Soul making views. Creation is a moral school. Creatures mature through trials and freely choose goodness. The free will says that God created free agents. Moral evil rises from misuse of freedom. The possibility of love requires genuine choice. This is back to the story that, okay, evil said, okay, I'm fire, human beings are out of soil. Ooh, fire is better than soil. That makes sense. So why would I just accept this soil out of the human, like human out of soil, to be superior than me? I'm not gonna accept that. That's the concept of evil. I don't know how much of it is actual truth, but that's the thing that we know basically. And God set laws in motion. Universe unfolds without ongoing in this kind of chaos. Bottom line, science tells us how. Theology, philosophy gives compelling answers to why. There's no single empirically proven why. So that's the point. There's no proven why. That's why a lot of people would accept it, a lot of people would not, a lot of people would actually think differently and try to experience and explore even further on. So why did God create Adam and Eve? The traditional answer, biblical one, is that in Genesis, Adam and Eve are the first human placed in Eden to tend the garden and fill the earth. Many traditions read them as literal first humans, traditional reading, representative archetypes of humanity, symbolic reading. They represent human nature, moral awakening, and the origin of moral responsibility. The scientific purpose, the genetics. Modern humans evolved over hundreds of thousands of years from ancestral hominin human beings and population. There is no evidence for a single literal biological couple, Adam and Eve, as the whole population's are the few thousand years ago. Term like Eve or Y chromosome Adam refer to the most recent common ancestors along specific genetic lineages, but those people were part of larger populations and lived tens to hundreds of thousands of years ago. Not the same as the Genesis couple. You see, these are the notes that I have written, so I'm trying to tell you exact things without misspelling them. Let me know what you guys think and how much of it you accept, because again, it's just for education purposes and you can choose. And this says, who did Adam and Eve create afterwards and who married who? The biblical account says the Genesis lists children, Cain, Abel, Seth, and later implies many sons and daughters. The text doesn't narrate detailed about the early pairings. So there's no mentioning on that. Traditional literalists infer that early human marriages were between siblings or close relatives. Example, Cain marrying a sister or niece, which is controversial, honestly speaking. Scientific and anthropological reality. Human populations never realistically came from two individuals. Early humans lived in groups where gene flow and mating among neighboring groups prevented extreme inbreeding over long periods. In smaller founder groups, some close-knit mating would occur historically, but natural social practices, incent taboos, and genetic depulation across generations mitigate severe effects. So if they do that, the children are gonna have Down syndrome or some kind of mental issues, I suppose. What it further says is that the narrative of immediate sibling marriage is a theological attempt to explain origins, given limited ancient knowledge, while genetic points to larger populations with complex mating pattern. I don't know how much of that might be true. Purpose of the forbidden fruit. This is a very interesting one. Just listen up, see what you actually accept. The symbolic or the theological recording. It says something really interesting. Knowledge of good and evil. The tree symbolizes moral knowledge, and the boundary of divinely given obedience. Eating symbolizes the transition to moral awareness and responsibility. Free will test. The prohibition creates a meaningful choice. Without the prohibition, moral choice would be absent. Loss of innocence, coming of age. Some read it as human maturation, gaining moral discernment, but also the burden of moral responsibility. It's becoming more difficult and confusing and complicated. And all I would say, the tree was a specific command, but what is the purpose of it? So again, this is, not meaningful. There is no scientific evidence for a literal magic tree. The discussion is about symbolism, moral psychology, and narrative meaning. So maybe this is just a story that was told so that we would imagine okay, these things were like that, but there was not really a real tree. It was just a symbol. Why did God create the serpent? So it says, avoid permitting moral choices seem to require temptation or chance to err. Without an opposite virtue would be meaningless. So the serpent or any source of challenge is necessary for real moral agency. That's why you see a lot of people, the opposites would be meaningful. For example, in superhero movies, you see the hero and the villain, the anti-hero. They complete each other because they are exact opposite. And if one of them is lost, there will be no narration. Okay, so what? Doesn't mean, for example, Batman would be right there, Batman, but there would be no Joker. Just as an example. And last but not least, why were Adam and Eve expelled from the garden, from the Eden? It says it's a symbolic meaning that exile explains human suffering and morality as tied to moral responsibilities and freedom, not merely punished. Justice and order, just yeah, typical things. And what was God doing before creation? It says timeless, rational eternity, and creation from freedom. So, philosophical, it says human language about before struggles to map onto the claims about eternity. Different traditions answer differently. None are empirically testable. So, if you cannot test something, how can you accept it? Why would we be evaluated, heaven or hell? What's the point? Religious evaluation can be metaphorical, spiritual consequences here and now, rather than literal postmodern situations. Non-theists reject the framework. What does God get out of it? What's in it for humans? So it says that classical answer: God being perfect takes nothing. Creation is not for God's benefit, but for sharing and manifestation. God's attributes: beauty, wisdom, and love. Rational answer: God desires creatures with whom to share love. The reward for God is relationship. But expression of God's nature, love, is fulfilled in loving others. Yeah, you see, love is only real when it's shared, like beautiful things. Sharing is, a beautiful thing. It says there's a phrase saying, "Caring is sharing." That kind of phrase. Meaning and relationship. Moral freedom, the ability to choose, makes love and virtue meaningful. Hope for ultimate justice or restoration. Why accept this? But in short, I would say that to wrap things up and give you a brief view, because I have noted these things very detailed, I would like to read it for you so I won't make a mistake. Many people combine both, treat these kind of concepts as theological truth about human purpose and meaning while accepting scientific account or cosmetic and biological origin. Open question: why exactly God would create remains ultimately a matter of philosophical or theological interpretation, personal belief, spiritual experience. So I would say, again, as I mentioned before, it's a rather personal decision, and you can choose based on the religion that you have, based on the personal feeling that you get, what's the meaning of these things. And I shared with you the scientific and the religious points of view, which are truly shared between a lot of different religions: Judaism, Christianity, Islam. Different religions kind of share the very same, similar kind of information on this, and on minor issues they are quite different. And let me know if you guys like this kind of topic and what I should create a post on or video on the next one. Have a good evening and see you later. Bye bye.